North Dakota State Extension economist Frayne Olson is our market analyst this week. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has increased its production forecast for the 2016 U.S. corn and soybean crops. In its November crop report released Wednesday, the agency bumped corn's output by 1% and increased soybeans total by 2%. The average yield of 175.3 bushels per acre in corn is 1.9 bushels higher than October's projection. Nebraska's expected 184 bushels per acre in corn is 3 bushels better than the previous estimate. Its soybean yield of 62 bushels per acre would tie Illinois for the largest in the country. We talked with Frayne Thursday morning and began by asking for his thoughts on November's production numbers.
The big surprise from the production side was the corn number. The national average corn yield jumped again, actually is now higher than what we saw in August. Everybody was kind of questioning the 175 number that USDA came out in August. We took, the trend was to start backing that off or lowering it slightly, but all of a sudden this month we came in with a number even bigger. And again, most of that was because of some of the production levels we have here in the Northern Plains.
Why was the trade not expecting that big of a jump?
I think there was a lot of focus on the traditional corn belt. You get into Nebraska, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, southern Minnesota as well. And the numbers for Iowa and Illinois came out as record numbers again, so they did go up a little bit marginally. But the big growth, if you look at the change in the numbers from last month to this month, has been in the Northern Plains, and in particular in North Dakota. We took a pretty healthy jump in our corn estimates. I think those are very realistic numbers based on my discussions with farmers and my traveling around the state. So we're going to have a very, very good corn year up here.
And North Dakota was by far the biggest increase, up 17 bushels from a month ago. Tell me your secrets, Frayne.
Well, I wish I knew exactly what it was. I think it's just a combination of some very good growing conditions. We were in the spring early. Usually in this part of the world, we run out of heat units or growing degree days. We have a pretty short growing season. Our nighttime temperatures are usually what hurts us. So we were in early. We had a very nice summer, and in particular this fall, we've had really, really beautiful weather. So again, our daytime temperatures as well as nighttime temperatures have been above average. So we had this longer growing season, and everything filled, and we've got nice, good test weight corn, so that adds up into bushels.
The changes to demand, though, weren't enough to offset those production increases. Tell me where the tweaks were.
Okay, some small tweaks on the corn side. The biggest change was in the feed, seed, and industrial use, or food, seed, industrial use, excuse me. And the biggest category of that, of course, was the ethanol numbers, and the ethanol number did come up a little bit, but this other category for seed, food, and industrial use also grew, and actually grew by a surprising amount. It's a relatively small number. It tends to be very, very, very stable, but for whatever reason, this last month, USDA did increase their forecast for that category.
You know, we look at the stock market and the effect of the U.S. election this week, and we saw it rise when a lot of analysts thought maybe it would fall. Is there a break in here somewhere that could spill over into commodities?
Well, and again, there's a lot of dynamics to the stock market and the investment community. Obviously, the election had a part role to play in that. There's always this spillover effect, or there's a connection now, a stronger connection between the ag markets and what's happening in the financial markets, because more of the financial investors are using agricultural products and other commodities like the energy stocks as a cross hedge, or they're using it as part of their portfolio or their equity management strategies. So that linkage between what's happening in the stock market and the financial community and agriculture is much stronger than it used to be. So there is this spillover pressure, there is this interconnection that we're looking for. Now, at the end of the day, I want to remind everybody that the supply-demand conditions overpower some of this investment mentality, but when we don't have a lot of new news in the supply-demand sector, then all of a sudden what happens outside of agriculture, what happens in the world economy, what happens in the U.S. economy has a stronger influence.
What have you been telling farmers about how they should, whether it be protect themselves or protect what we've seen is a record crop in both corn and soybeans for selling strategies?
Well, I think until we get the crop harvested, until it's finished, we're going to be in a relatively tight trading range. Now that we have these new numbers, everybody's kind of trying to digest those and figure out what it means. But I think we're going to be in this trading range until we find a home for all of the bushels that we produce. From there on, it's going to be a bit tricky. What I'm suggesting to farmers is actually a three-part strategy. First, look for small rallies. Look for opportunities to try and take advantage of higher prices. They will come. We will have some changes in the market and market expectations. The second is don't overlook the carry in the futures market. So as we move forward into the deferred months or the outlying months in the futures market, there's a carry there. There's an incentive to store. Try and take advantage of that. And the third thing is right now, because of the big crop basis levels, that spread between the futures market and the cash market is very, very wide. Again, the cash market's getting flooded with grain, trying to figure out what to do with it all. Once we find a home for it, I do think we'll see some basis recovery. And so by the time you add up a small rally in the underlying futures, take advantage of a little bit of carry into the futures market, and then some improvement in the basis, we will be looking at better prices than we see right now. But we're going to really have to play all of the angles and all the games that we haven't had to play for a while in the commodity markets.
Finally, I'll ask Frayne about the current condition of winter wheat across the U.S.
Yeah, winter wheat conditions are still pretty good. We're just finishing up the tail end of the planting progress right now. Winter wheat conditions are pretty good. There are some concerns showing up in some areas about some dryness. We tend to have this every year, especially going into fall. The bigger, more important thing is what are the spring conditions? How does the winter wheat crop come out of dormancy? And what kind of growing conditions do we have during the especially early spring months?